Okay, so basically I'm going to be doing my speech over DNA, the history of DNA and exonerations and whatnot, so I'm going to go ahead and get it started. Basically every person is made up of DNA. Of course the human body has other factors that make it function, but DNA is going to be basically the blueprint of the human body. We have DNA in our blood, our hair, our skin cells, and other bodily functions. DNA is what makes each individual different, unless of course you're an identical twin. DNA is self-replicating material present nearly in all living organisms as the main constituent of chromosomes, and that's the actual definition of it. It's basically the carrier of all of our genetic information. Although DNA has been known about and studied since the late 1800s, it wasn't until somebody named Alex Jeffries' development of fingerprinting in 1984 that DNA began to be used widely, especially for criminal investigations. With testing and new techniques being developed through the years, DNA evidence has significantly improved and it's only going to get better. It is not uncommon for many different scientists to work off of one another, so there are a few scientists who contributed to the discovery of DNA. As I said earlier, Alex Jeffries was one of them. He was the one responsible for the fingerprinting. And we also have Watson and Crick, who were two scientists who basically figured out the structure of DNA itself. And that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Johann Friedrich Meister, who basically isolated the DNA molecule in the 1800s. DNA is really fragile, especially when it's being used for evidence. So have you guys ever watched a movie or like a TV show and they're acting and they're like really particular about collecting the DNA? That's because anything can tamper it. This is one of the few times that the CSI effect is actually not an exaggeration. The truth is that very many things can tamper with the evidence at the scene. Every time you walk into a room, you're leaving DNA. It's the same with all the people present at the scene. That's why it's important to have only the people absolutely necessary present. Another way that crime scenes can be tampered with unintentionally is through environmental circumstances. Weather such as rain or wind could potentially ruin all the DNA evidence that has been left by the perpetrator. So it's important to get in quickly, gather up all the DNA, and get out. Any and all evidence that is collected and logged has a chain of custody. The chain of custody is basically a record of all of the individuals who have physically had the evidence in their possession. This is important because evidence has sometimes been lost and or tampered with. The use of the chain of custody helps keep tabs on the evidence and who has it. The shorter the chain of custody, the better. If there are only 5 people in the chain of custody and something happens to the evidence, you only have to question 5 people. Can you guys imagine if there was 100? So, if it's proven in the lab that evidence has been tampered with, the judge is not going to let you use it in court. He's going to have to throw it out. We always hear about innocent men and women who are wrongfully serving time. When families of those inmates and inmates themselves push forward enough, they are lucky enough to get help from the Innocence Project. The Innocence Project is an organization that is dedicated to help prove the innocence of individuals who are almost out of hope. According to their website, the Innocence Project has exonerated 333 people in 37 different states since 1989. Legally speaking, exoneration means that you are absolving someone from their blame. For example, the Netflix famous Stephen Avery was exonerated from his blame September 10, 2003 with the help of the Innocence Project. Stephen Avery was charged with sexual assault, attempted murder, and false imprisonment. He was found guilty on September 14, 1985. Stephen Avery served 18 years of his life in prison for a crime that he did not commit. The Innocence Project took his case head-on and through DNA testing were able to prove his innocence. Another case that the Innocence Project got involved with was the case of Marvin Anderson. Anderson was charged with rape, abduction, sodomy, and robbery. He was convicted on December 12, 1982, and he was sentenced to 210 years in federal prison. Years after his conviction, DNA testing became widely available, and Anderson was able to pursue his innocence. He was later notified that the rape kit and the contents in the rape kit were destroyed. So his only option was to get help from the Innocence Project. The Innocence Project accepted Anderson's case in 1994, according to their website. After years of DNA testing being denied, they finally won access and were able to exclude Anderson as a perpetrator in 2001. Anderson was fully exonerated on August 22nd of 2002. He served 20 years for this crime. Through DNA testing, though DNA testing has been improved and it's only getting better, the Innocence Project states on their website that we will never know for sure. but studies have found that it's an estimated between 2.3 to 5% of all prisoners in the United States are actually innocent. DNA is the blueprint of our lives. With every breath, every touch, and every step we take, we leave behind a trace of our being. It has proven itself very useful in solving criminal investigation and helping those prove their innocence. This is a chart that I made that shows exonerations that have happened through DNA testing. So this is the number, and this is the year. And as you can see, I did it from 2010, and it's been helping a lot of people. So something just to keep in mind. Thank you, guys. Yay! These little papers were like cut off.